Okay, let's start this out. My name's Kevin Long from Haypenny Marketing. Welcome to the kickoff of Innovation in Motion. This is a monthly meetup to talk about online innovation and trends that are happening in interactive marketing. Today we're going to be tackling the future of internal collaboration platforms. I picked this topic because I am amazed of the growth of social media, and I'm curious how that's really translating into companies and how they can be more effective, and I'm curious of where the future goes with that. So just to do a quick introduction of our panelists tonight, to my left I have Courtney Timm, Marketing Manager from FMYI, FMYI Innovation. Next to Courtney is George Huff, the founder and CEO of Opal. And next to George is Jennifer Walts, SharePoint consultant extraordinaire. So we have three different platform perspectives on the panel tonight. There's a lot of people in the audience that have experience in internal collaboration, want to have a lot of back and forth. So we're going to do a little short introductions from each of the panelists, and then I'm going to get into some questions, but let's just kind of keep this open, and if people want to add in as we go along, just feel free to raise your hand. Okay, great. So just on the next slide, just a quick note here. If you need wireless, the pass is Ned's Space. If you want to Twitter anything out, we'll either answer the questions during this conversation or follow up with it after. We're going to use the hashtag #innovation. And for anyone wanting to catch this live stream, either this month or in the future months, we are at livestream.com/innovationinmotion. And it is incredibly easy to live stream nowadays, so everyone should be doing it for everything. Share the information. So with that, I just want to give a little bit of background on these platforms. Everyone's familiar with Facebook and the news feed, and the question is, how is tools like that going to move into corporations, or how is it and how will it help companies be more effective? What I put up here is just I'm throwing out 10 of the top popular internal collaboration platforms for people to kind of wrap their heads around or be able to check out these sites later. I have FMYI, Huddle, LumaFlow, Opal, SharePoint, SocialCast, Yammer, Jive, Moxie, and Chatter. I'm just curious from the audience, any big ones you think I missed or you think should be up on there?
Question.
Yeah. So that's a good question. How is internal collaboration tools different than project management tools? How I've kind of separated out this list a little bit more is I'm not looking at like the Basecamp's side of things. I'm keeping it, sort of had to draw a line in the sand. Now, some of our panelists here are going to blur that line because they are a social, but then they do really heavy project management side of things. So we'll definitely have the experts trying to answer that today. But for today's discussion, internal collaboration platforms, I'm looking at it from a social, cultural perspective and less of like tech project management. And just to kick things off to show how this space is heating up, before we go to FMYI, do you want to open the video?
Yes.
I want to just show you, I don't know if you guys are aware of what happened at the last SharePoint conference just recently, and Huddle showed up with a 100-piece band and marching band and like stormed Microsoft, and I thought this was kind of interesting to show how the space is heating up. Just 20-second video to kick things off. So this is Huddle with the whole band in front of the SharePoint conference.
Their advertisement.
So that's a SharePoint banner in the far left, and that's Huddle marching around. So just a show of hands, I'm curious. Now, none of you three were marching there? No? Jennifer, were you there at the conference? Okay.
I was not there. I was not marching.
Okay. So can I just see a show of hands? Who thinks that's innovative, creative marketing? And can I see a show of hands? Who thinks that's not cool?
Is there a third
Not cool. Wow. Wow.
Isn't there a third choice?
What's the third
Creative
choice?
was one and cool was not.
Yeah, it's either cool or not cool.
How about could it be cool but not particularly
Okay. Cool, but not creative.
I guess I need to know more backstory.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many views did it get on YouTube?
It's like 2,000.
2,000?
Yeah.
That's a waste of investor money.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, now how many people are talking about it on a live web stream? Right.
2,000.
How many millions of people are watching us talk about this on the Innovation in Motion live stream?
It did just get promoted, so maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
All right, back to the PowerPoint. So what I just think is interesting is there's a lot of players coming to market. There's a lot of different companies doing things, which is what I kind of want to explore today, of what are the different platforms out there, how are companies using it, and I'm curious at the end who's going to be the champion of this all. So let's jump to the next slide.
We're in a box later.
Yeah.
Are these all enterprise tools?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to start this out, and each speaker's just going to go through a few slides, talk about what they do, and give a little framework of their perspective and their approach onto this field. So, Courtney, we'll have you start this out for FMYI.
Yeah. Courtney with FMYI, and we are obviously a collaboration platform, and we're located in the Left Bank project just across the river. And you can go to the next slide. Our kind of tagline, and when Justin founded the company in 2004, was all about empowering teams to make a difference and giving them the tools to do so. So the slides that I brought today, I just kind of wanted to give a top 10 breakdown of why we have kind of figured out that FMYI is relative and how it is a useful tool for teams or organizations. I don't know if you can see that very well, but I'll just read through them quickly. Bring people together. So it's everything virtual in one place. You can use it as an internal tool bring in consultants at a restricted level, or communicate with external clients or customers. It's got that social networking feel, number 2, for profiles and teams and different ways to share information. Share files, find the latest version, continue conversations on those files, and have that connected discussion around them. Number 4, track interactions. So you can use it as a contact management and keep all of your notes secured and categorized and easily searchable. So get things done to manage projects. Innovate, have the group calendar and feed and reporting. And again, fully indexed for searchable. It's accessible anywhere from your mobile device. Teams can work remotely. The 8th point, it's easy to roll out. So it doesn't take an IT department to get your FMYI site going. Any one of you could start a site right now and get your team on board or with it being easily customizable. Number 9 is be sustainable. So that's a big one for Justin and for the FMYI team, is the sustainability commitment and the commitment to the triple bottom line. And then the 10th point is it's easily configured by the admin of the site, so kind of the same. It's easy to roll out. So you can go to the next slide.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I can go back. For number 6, could you say more about how group calendar and all those things relate to innovation? I don't see the connection.
So just the question, repeat it from the microphone, is how do calendars relate to online innovation?
Okay, well, the group calendar, so it's for kind of those high level and key milestones within the company. So it's a way of reporting back and keeping that dialogue going. And it's, can I kind of think about that one a little bit more and come back to you with
That's
a more
good too. So we're going to hold that, and when we talk about innovation, well, let's talk about some of the tools that are within here, like calendars, and does that really inspire innovation and culture?
Thanks. And I just wanted to bring with me 4 kind of high-level case studies so you get a feel for current clients that are using us and how they're using us. The first one in the top left is Nike, and they use us for, one example is a product testing site. So they send out their shoes to thousands of people across the United States, and those users try out the shoes, do reporting, log in, say their miles, the comfort of the shoe, and all of that information. So Nike can then aggregate all those results and use it as a research and development and cut costs extremely to better their shoes. Yeah. So got a few fun little projects with them. The one on the top right is Hyatt, and they use us for their global green team. So across 250, 300 hotels, it's just an employee engagement tool. So people can talk about what's working, questions they have, and it's everybody from back of house staff to managers. So a very transparent communication tool. The bottom left is about 1,000 teams on the Aflac Salesforce use us as a way of tracking their communications with clients. So both to improve their sales side of things, but also as a way of communicating as a team and bettering that communication. And seeing leaps and bounds of the Aflac folks getting on board with that. And then on the right-hand side is HBO, and they use it as a resource sharing information across teams heavily. Some other product or TV production uses it for the casting and production of actual TV shows, and a way of sharing that information in real time, and it's accessible no matter where you are. So I think that was it. I wanted to be good on my 3 minutes.
That was good.
Is it okay?
We're now, you did go 30 seconds over, but that just means we're going to cut George short 30 seconds. All right, so now we're going to jump to, we're going to skip that one. Go to Opal. Okay, so now this is George, the CEO and founder of Opal.
I was going to say that, but...
And he's going to do a brief overview of who they are and what they do.
Thank you, Kevin. So as you said, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Opal Labs. We're a Portland and London-based company. We are self-funded, and we have about 20 people, and we started 18 months ago trying to crack the problem of employee communities, and part of its innovation, part of its philanthropy, part of its culture. And so if you go to the next slide, we have is that what we do? Is this?
Yeah.
Okay. We use a blended technology and consultancy to help companies solve systemic issues that they have, whether it's, they want to build a rocket ship, as I stated up there, or they have systemic sustainability issues. We really try to help them through our myriad of tools in consultancy to achieve those goals. Wow, that's not too bad. So anyway, we've been doing this for about 3 to 4 years in terms of talking about technology and consultancy together in regards to employee communities. And we really kind of have identified 3 high-level questions that sort of are the foundation of what we're trying to achieve and accomplish. The first is the if only we knew what we knew problem. The data exhaust for organizations today is massive. Nobody can keep up with it, and it's only going to get more and more intense as time goes on. There's also the demographic shift of employees that are the baby boomer generation moving out with all the wealth and knowledge that they have, and the millennials moving in. And so how do you keep track of that kind of information? So that's one of the key cornerstones of what we try to do. The other is the culture eats strategy for breakfast. Basically, we've gone in and we've talked about technology, we've talked about strategy, and we've been doing this collectively for 15, 20 years in terms of just strategic thinking. And what we've found across all of it is that if the company's culture is in any way bad, or for lack of a better word, or just generally doesn't have any, I guess the comparison we use is just antibodies. And it's if new stuff comes in and they reject it, ideas get out. They're not really taken up. No one gets behind anybody. Everybody lets sort of backbiting, all that kind of stuff happen. You can't get any kind of strategic plans done. And then the third is just that technology. People have a very romantic relationship with technology in their personal lives. You go home and you get on your Xbox 360 and your Netflix and your iTunes and your iPod and iPad, and it's great. And then you have to go into work and deal with tools that are crappy. They're not fun to use. You're behind firewalls. You're using old PCs that are slow. And so we really try to focus on the user experience side of things. And we think that that's kind of where a lot of our differentiation lies, is that we really build delightful tools for employees that make them happy, that make them want to use it, that increase communication. And so this is kind of some of the companies that we're working with and talking to, and like I said, we're just getting started. We're just getting to the market. We're probably going to be going direct in 3 to 6 months, and so we're very, very early on, but we have a really strong opinion about what we want to be in the marketplace. The tool is not the end. The happy employee community is the end. So that's about it.
Okay, thanks. Next slide. This is Jennifer Walts. Jennifer is a former Microsoft employee, SharePoint consultant, and I'm really interested to hear about SharePoint. I hear great things, and I hear mixed reviews, and Jennifer is here to solve all of that.
It definitely seems to be one way or the other. And I'm not here as a Microsoft representative. I've just been working with SharePoint since 2004, and I love it. So worked with a lot of organizations, large and small groups, helping them, whether they already have SharePoint deployed and not use it, maybe they're not using it successfully, or maybe they're looking to deploy it, sitting down, mapping out how different departments are going to use it, how it's going to be used across the organization. Thank you. Oh, okay. Not the order I thought I put it in, but this is fine. One thing about SharePoint, with SharePoint 2010 especially, and I don't know, who's used it, who hasn't, but it seems like there are so many features. As Kevin mentioned, people either seem to really love it or they hate it. One thing that I think maybe lends itself toward that not liking SharePoint as much is the sheer number of features. There is so much involved in SharePoint. It can really do a lot. It can do so much that I don't think people can even understand all the capabilities. Thank you. Kind of along the lines of what George was talking about, regardless of what type of implementation you're doing, what type of project, having a strategy, having that clearly defined, having that communicated to your users. We all use some type of software, some type of tools, and there are the things that you like to use and the things that you don't like to use. But I know, at least for me personally, understanding why this is, why this is within an organization or a group, what it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to help us, being able to go in and make changes, to improve efficiencies, to make something work a little bit better for the team. That always helps, at least with my personal adoption, and also training. It seems like there's, sometimes organizations will install something and they kind of stop there. They don't train so people understand exactly how to use the tool, and you're not going to have a good adoption without that.
Okay. So, just to start this discussion, I want to do a one-sentence round robin of my company's unique selling point is. Because here's what I'm picturing. A bunch of news feeds. I can attach files. It has some calendars. Happy days. I can be more efficient internally, leveraging social media and these internal collaboration tools. But what is the difference between FMYI, Opal, and SharePoint? So if you have one sentence...
This wasn't in the list.
I know. This is what I do. This list is a fake list. Yeah. So what is the big thing that stands out with FMYI?
Oh gosh, one sentence.
One simple thing.
I would say that it is a dynamic and one-stop shop for all use cases. I'm trying to...
Okay, one-stop shop. George?
To go over.
One sentence.
You're done.
Whoa, man. Jennifer. We're not messing around here. All right, one more chance, George.
I would say that our focus is on experience and not necessarily features, and I think that makes us different. So,
okay, Jennifer.
I think SharePoint has a lot of functionality going for it, widely deployed in a lot of organizations, and even more available now with Office 365.
That was a run-on sentence. We'll let it slide. So, now here's what I want to start with. I hear about these tools. I know everyone at this table is making money, and everybody has customers, and everyone's implementing these things. But I hear this story over and over again. Oh, yeah, we used that thing, and then it went down, and then we stopped using it. And, it was so awesome, and then we stopped using it. And I just hear this, roller coaster of, companies implementing these things, and this up and down. It's awesome, we don't use it anymore. It's awesome, we don't use it anymore. And so I'm wondering if we can just go down the line, if anyone wants to tackle this. Why is this roller coaster happening?
George? I'll tackle it. We call it participation curve, and basically you see this sort of initial push around it, and then you fall off and you fall off. The idea is that if this is going to happen, you got to slow. Hopefully you're going upwards when you're doing it, but I think that it comes down to community management. And so this is kind of the difference between something like FMYI. It's projects and it's social. And SharePoint, which is primarily projects, but I haven't been on SharePoint for a bit, but is there a social aspect, a strong social aspect?
There's a social aspect with 2010.
Okay, so, but basically what that requires is that if you go in and the first thing you see is a post that's old, it's like a virus in the system, and everyone goes, oh, no one's been posting for a while, and so people stop using it. And really it comes down to community management. And so for us, we really focus on community managers and giving them tools, that are easy to use. It really makes their day better, and they're effective, and it's so that's, I think, the one piece of it that really has to be implemented. And I think probably in the strategies that you do, it's whoever you're working with.
Okay, so does SharePoint and FMYI put in community managers every time they implement the software?
The admin is kind of the one who, or the decision maker is kind of owns that community manager.
Okay, the admin. What about SharePoint?
Well, it depends on how you want to set it up with your permissions. Depending on how your site is being used, you're most definitely going to have an administrator, but you can also have a lot of things open to most people within the group. So it's not necessarily just one person who has to fill that role as far as getting a lot of community going.
Yeah, we look at it as a user type. So it's like you get on, some users are going to be community managers, some are going to be the admin. But like identifying the people in your organization that are catalysts for creativity and inspiration, empower them. And a lot of times it's people that haven't been there a long time, they're just they're new, and they're excited. Yeah. Tap into that. And it's not always the admin that is the best person to like encourage community. Yeah. A lot of times it's probably the worst person, like you just never know. Right. So,
But this is what I understand. You guys talk about these community people who have to be in there to do it, but Facebook, I don't have a community manager for my Facebook page, and it's like completely relevant to me, and I love it, and that's why Facebook has 750 million users.
But there is that viral aspect. So if you don't have someone on, no matter what your platform is, if you don't have someone who is going in at least posting, if none of your friends ever made updates, how often would you be going onto Facebook? Maybe sometimes.
And you can't post your drunk photos on your internal platform.
Well, depending on your culture, you just have to develop a better culture.
Yeah.
So if you have people who, if you have some people who really understand what this can do and they're excited by it, regardless of what you're calling them, and they're involved, then as George said, the people who go on will see, okay, well, so and so did this, I'm going to do that too, and you'll build from there.
Facebook too is also like a novelty, and it's a great place to like spend time. It's an entertainment thing. It's like watching TV.
Right.
It's not a productivity.
Yeah. So, I think it's just...
So, Courtney,
sorry to interrupt. I'm wondering, along these same lines, could you comment on information overload? Because I think tools that permit sharing of everything all the time, that sounds like a good idea because more information is better, but we're designed to filter and eliminate, and the slowness of our physical limitations makes work possible.
So too many people in the news feed as an example of information overload? Okay, so let me...
Everything of the 850 people I'm working with saw everything, pretty soon I'd shut it off.
Right, okay, so let me rephrase that for the microphones. And I've had the same comment for you before of... I was talking to someone from Wyden Kennedy, and they said, oh yeah, we used Yammer for a while, it was so awesome. And then everybody got on it, and it was horrible. It was like having a Facebook newsfeed of these people who I don't know who they are and I have no connection to. So what do you do with this information overload when you have 10,000 people on this?
I will say for FMYI, I'm not sure about the use cases for you guys, but when you sign on, you have the ability to filter, in general, when you sign up for your account, if you're going to be receiving email alerts, or people can choose to send out news alerts if it's relevant to you. And so when you sign on, you've got that whole news feed, but you can also target that as, I want to see every activity in the site that I have permission to see. Or you can choose to have your settings as, I only want to see information on projects that I'm a part of. And then you don't even, like, the news feed is great, and some people use it, but that's not kind of the use case for everybody. So you maybe want to see the top 10 things that have happened recently, but other than that, you're going to be going to those specific projects that you're working on, or that specific contact, or that, I don't know, diversion page where you want to see the funny YouTube video that somebody posted. So you can kind of selectively enter the gateways of the site as you choose.
So all these sites have multiple feeds. that are filtered out, like groups. You're going into rooms basically and looking at like what these people are doing, what these people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for the way that we look at it is organizations are rarely like silos. It's kind of spaghetti. So it's a mix of informal networks, your departments, your roles within an organization. And so what we've tried to do is when someone's creating an Opal, they go, these are our department structure. Here's some of our roles that we have at the company. And so when a user signs on to Opal for the first time, they go, I'm in this department, I'm in this role. And immediately they get into their activity feed. We have a general channel, which is sort of like whatever gets thrown in there. And yes, it does move fast at any company. But then you have specific stuff. And I think the important piece here to remember is that by no means is the activity feed the end-all be-all of online collaboration and the future of it. I think it's far from it. I think activity feeds are a great way to scan information and share information across large bodies of employees, but I think it does break down at a certain number. And so, part of what we're doing, at least, is trying to design for that scenario when you do have that many users. So, following all that kind of fun.
Nice. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about our ROI. First, real quick, let's run down round robin, one sentence. Smallest company using your product, largest number of people using your product.
On one site?
Yeah.
I would say there's about 8,000 on one site would be the largest, and probably even down to 2.
2 to 8,000, Opal?
It works at 2, huh?
Yeah.
So, I mean, right now, like I said, we're just getting the market. And a lot of what we're doing is consultancy. One sentence, though, I had to preface.
Man.
I know, I'm sorry.
I'm going to give you another one.
I don't really follow rules that well. But yeah, smallest company, we try not to roll out for less than 10 people because it's social. And then biggest company, we have about 90 people on it right now.
Okay.
So like I said,
You're just getting going.
Yeah,
You went to market how long ago?
We're not like going into market. It's like getting pilot partners.
Yeah.
You're asking questions.
But you're just recent into the market.
Yeah, we're just getting started. So
how long's FMYI been in the market?
Since 2005, I think is when we launched.
How long has SharePoint been in the market?
1972.
Nice. Jennifer, what's the largest group you've had using SharePoint?
Well, the largest group I know of is Microsoft. Some of the companies that I've worked with, the companies I've worked with tend to be within, a few hundred users for a particular site.
Okay. So SharePoint can go that low for people, and it still is cost effective.
I can't speak to whether it's cost effective for the organization. These are companies that have already had, organizations that have already had SharePoint.
Okay. So return on investment, if I'm running a 50-person company, I want to encourage, great ideas coming out. I want it to flow. What sort of return on investment? I tried to do research on return on investment. It really wasn't that easy to find.
Have you seen the Yammer report? At least in kind of, I think that we're probably the most social out of the 3 platforms, maybe. But the Yammer report is insane, and I know there's people in here that can probably quote it. But it's what is it? The percent 350% or am I too high? Is it around there?
350% return.
Yeah, ROI on Yammer.
Yeah,
it's around that. So
right.
So they got that authored by Forrester.
Yeah.
Okay.
An independent report for their marketing purposes, and it's probably the deepest dive on return on investment.
So Forrester did a Yammer study.
Yeah, Yammer paid Forrester.
Yeah, right.
Studies for them.
Right.
And the results were in Yammer's favour.
So like I said, there's no actual documentation on the market of return on investment. No. I mean, I think it's interesting that it's not like the field just started 6 months. Not like Opal's the first company out there, and I'm just surprised it's not easier to see that return on investment. I'm wondering, does anyone have an example?
It's hard to measure, I think. I mean, what's the value of an idea that happens in a random channel on your digital platform? I mean, your next big thing could come from that, or it could be just a lot of noise. I don't know. I mean,
man, that's a good pitch. I'm ready to buy. You can't put a price on an idea.
Are you saying that do you think these collaboration tools or these versions of collaboration tools generate internal innovation?
The question was, do you think these internal collaboration tools generate innovation?
Generate internal innovation.
Internal innovation.
One of our focuses is, who we like to champion is the intrapreneur, the internal entrepreneur. And so, the people that have ideas, if you can give them avenues and channels to promote them, and you work on having a culture that isn't going to reject new ideas, then yes, absolutely. But it depends if the culture is ready for it. Because if the culture is not ready for it, you have a culture of idea killers. I don't know if you've ever worked in those kind of organizations, but it is miserable for everyone there. So
I think most organizations are idea killers.
I think you're absolutely right. And so we're at least trying to solve that with some of the game layer stuff we're doing, trying to just encourage really just innovation, positive behaviors, like never letting an idea just sit there without someone commenting on it or at least liking it. Or
Okay, so there's no ROI. That's the answer to this. There's no proven ROI yet. No concrete ROI for internal collaboration tools. How many people in the audience? No proven. How many people here in the audience use internal collaboration tools? Can I just see a show of hands? How many people here in the audience have used multiple over time collaboration tools? Right, about the same amount.
Kevin, we have to disagree on that.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I think there's definitely evidence out there, and afterwards maybe we'll dig some up.
Okay.
Now, I can even think about a specific site. It was a tool using both SharePoint and InfoPath, and I know the team previously had focused on Excel, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I
Sure.
know how the team was able to grow year over year, doubling the number of digital media events it was putting together, and that couldn't have been done without increasing headcount.
Right.
If they didn't have a tool, if they were still using Excel, it wouldn't have worked. So
Great.
having something like a combined InfoPath and SharePoint.
Okay, so what's interesting with that is, one, we'll find that and we'll put that at innovation hashtag for everybody. But the other thing is, that's interesting because is that inspiring innovation or just productivity? And and is there do you look at this as a difference? Because that sounds to me like that kicked butt with productivity, but it might not have had anything to really do with innovation. People started moving more fluently.
Right. No, I think that was definitely for productivity. It wasn't meant to, in this particular case, it wasn't meant to really help foster innovation. Innovation did come in smaller ways, like having this tool having the group be able to open itself up to other forms of digital media because the tool could accept it. It was able to adapt at relatively no cost. It was simple to acclimate. But no, it was definitely one of the main things was productivity.
For my innovations about to talk.
Hey, Kevin,
Yeah.
we have a question from the live stream webcast.
Yep.
Alexander says, how are you influencing user adoption or workflow use? In other words, users turn the key, and how do they learn the best practices in using the tool? Or how do we make using collaboration tools a habit?
Okay, so we're going to hold the innovation for a second and answer this. How do we make collaboration tools a habit? When someone downloads it and they don't have this community manager holding their hand and they're ready to get going?
I would say that the number one thing, and Jennifer touched on this earlier, was having a clear use case when you're starting your site. You need to know why you're using it before anybody's going to use it. And maybe the people that are going to be starting this community start putting a little bit of information in there. You don't want it to be outdated, but by the time that you invite everybody else in and they create their username and they sign into the account for the first time, they're going to want to see something that's relative to them that they can already engage in that conversation in second one.
So having one don't tackle your entire business strategic plan, here's what we're trying to finish by the end of the year. Everybody jump on this platform.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the year, do it a little bit farther and a little bit farther.
Let it grow with you and scale it. Start with a few people, then grow to the 50.
Okay. Anyone else want to add to that, or everybody agree with that? Start with one project.
I think that's easily one part of it that's really important. It's having something that is there for users to do right away. We kind of file all this stuff under a bucket called onboarding, and how do you onboard your users? And we tackle it by they get on, and we really try to walk them through stuff, and then always have that available so they can pull it up. What is this again? That sort of thing.
Right.
And then the other is that we have a game layer built on top of Opal that is essentially users get they get accolades for using the platform in healthy ways, and so it's right away they do a couple things, they start earning accolades, and it goes part of their profile. So it's sort of just by participating you get something versus it just gives them a little bit more incentive.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're still going forward and trying this and using it.
And Opal's really targeted towards
space.
that innovation. Like you want to go, like I see these tools as like there's this productivity track, which is what you just talked about, I think, Jennifer. And then there's this like innovation track. How can we actually tap into more ideas?
Yeah.
You're going down the innovation track.
Me?
Kind of, right?
We?
Opal is. I don't know if you are, but Opal is for sure.
I mean, I think it's, again, it's a cultural thing, but yeah, I mean, I think that what we really want to do is make employees happy, and it's a cultural thing, and that does lead to more innovation. Productivity, I mean, how much more can you squeeze out of employees before it's like enough is enough? Like, in productivity is really hard because it's here's this tool you're going to use to be more productive, and workflows are so agnostic of what the corporation decides that they want it to be. I mean, some people, they're like, I don't want all your to-do software. I just want a notepad in front of me.
Right.
And I want to write it down. And so that's why, like, it's really, really hard to go, this is going to be your new workflow. So productivity, I think, is a really, really tough space to be in. Culture may be tougher, but no one's tackling that right now in the way that we're trying to tackle it.
Courtney, are you at FMYI? Would you look at like the productivity track or this innovation track?
Both. So if you look at the Aflac example that I mentioned earlier, I'd be interested actually to get some more numbers from them. But you've got one team that their productivity, their sales numbers are low, and they're kind of, some districts are, you know, maybe going to be cut out because they're not productive. We get them on FMYI. We've seen several examples where they are now part of FAME, which is their term of great success, and getting it year after year after year. So that's the productivity side, but then you've got your Hyatt and the green teams where they're sharing information across all these channels, whether it's ways to reduce water or interesting things that they're doing, and I would say that's more of the innovation channel, the way that they're communicating and sharing information.
So before we were talking about this up and down, you know, usage, people starting these and stopping them. I mean, when I did it with the audience, how many people have used it? A lot of hands went up. How many people use multiple platforms? The same amount of hands went up. And I'm curious if I was actually wondering if it's just a generational thing. You know, like I can't get my little brother to respond back to me via email. I don't even think he has one, you know, and I have to use social media, or George. I mean, so I'm just curious from anyone if you think it's actually a generational play when the next round of generation comes into leadership positions.
There's something to that, absolutely. Absolutely. The generation coming up is expecting tools like this. The generation that's leaving is sitting there going, I don't, just send me an email, you know, like I don't get this. And it's not like, that's a huge generalization, obviously, but I mean, from what we've seen, that's sort of the trend.
What about with SharePoint? So you're implementing with these clients, you know, what's the average age of the person who is pushing this down the mogul hill?
Well, I'm thinking about, I worked with a tribe in British Columbia, and it was really interesting because most of the people who, or not most, a number of the people who are part of this organization and who needed to log in and access SharePoint didn't have any computer experience. So not only was it teaching how to use SharePoint, but it was also making sure that they were educated in how to, you know, little computer 101. So I think the age can really be any age range. Why some organizations seem to go through these dips of adopting different tools, I think it has something to do with companies like George's company, because there's always an FMYI, because there are constantly greater things coming out, newer things, you know, things that are filling maybe a current need. So why not take advantage of that?
So along the lines of taking advantage of like the next workforce coming in, talent management starting to be a big thing. I was talking to someone from HP here, and he's talking about how the company is really, a lot of people are working from home and dispersed, and you're seeing this trend happen more and more and more. Are these tools becoming a factor when you're, like, an example of like serious, solid clients that you have right now? Are they clients that are dispersed, or are they clients in an office or a couple offices?
I would say that the majority of ours are dispersed. I mean, we're a perfect example of that. We've got 5 people in Portland, but then the rest of our office, everybody works from home from Florida, Louisiana, Texas, and Washington. And then we've got an example that I kind of talked about on the blog video is GlobeScan, and they're based in Toronto, but they've got offices. Somebody works out of Costa Rica because they like living in Costa Rica. Other people in London, and they don't miss a beat. They're able to share information all the time.
How many people are on it?
On the GlobeScan?
Yeah,
there's about 50.
50. Okay, all over.
All over.
Okay, huh. Jennifer, when you've been working with it, are you just in an office in a company with 1 or 2 offices?
I actually haven't been in an office in probably 6 years personally, so
Okay.
I've been using SharePoint virtually.
Right.
And then a lot of the organizations I work with, I mean, it's not just whether you have remote employees, it's whether you have different offices, and people trying to access or needing to access that information. And I know right now, like I said, having worked remotely for so long, the trend isn't really, how to work remotely. It's now, there's this evolution where I think it's a lot more mature, and, these tools make something that before was maybe you had to convince an organization why you should be able to work remotely. Now it's, I think, more widely accepted because of tools where you can really stay in touch.
It's kind of an inherent nature of this kind of stuff is that it does help with remote offices and all that stuff. I mean, I think any of the platforms you listed.
I would say, too, that we've got other people that maybe they're part of their own individual organizations, but then they're part of maybe a nonprofit that is going to be doing some travel together. Like there's a team now that's getting ready to go to Cuba, and they're a Special Libraries Association. And I got on a training call with them, and none of them had met before, but they were all over the country, but yet working on the same goal and all getting ready to do a trip together. So they had so much fun sharing resources with each other and feeling like that they were getting to know each other on a personal level before they embarked on a big trip.
So how mature is this market? Where is this at? So internal collaboration platforms, like how widely is it being used and how much growth, if you're going to put it on, some sort of a chart, how mature is it?
I think it's a tough thing to answer. I think, like, when we were talking earlier, I mean, the enterprise market, you have a behemoth like Microsoft that comes in and says the entire company is using this, and it gets pushed down from the top, and IT and all that stuff. And so that is a tough nut to crack for a small company like FMYI. I mean, you get your wins, but it's definitely not like, you're not throwing the Microsoft name around yet. So yeah, I think it's just tough to crack. But I think that in terms of software as a service model, where small teams within organizations can use what you're doing, and I think this is kind of where FMYI. I mean, we both have Nike, so obviously all of Nike is not using FMYI or Opal yet. But yeah, so I think that's the difference. So
okay,
I mean, this stuff, and again, we get to be nimble and innovate, and because it is software as a service, and I don't know about where SharePoint's at, but I was always in the impression it's like an installed tool
with
within
Office
a service.
365, you now have
so it's in the cloud now, right? So stuff that's in the cloud, though, it's like instant updates. It's constantly new, and I mean, you can get into a bit of a features arms race, and that's when I say we don't really focus on features. I mean, we got great features, but like, we got calendar. Like, it's crazy how fast software as a service companies can roll out new features, and that's really why Basecamp has been successful, is because they've been very diligent and judicial about what they're going to roll out. Because I think, to your point about SharePoint, it's like you get on, all of a sudden it's like 200 features, use them all right now, and you're like, oh my god, I'm just going to curl up a little ball and go back to my to-do list on my notepad. Right. So I mean, I think that's a long-winded answer.
So video, well, that's all right. Video and mobile, are the big things coming down. What's going to happen with video? Where's mobile going? I'm just curious if this is influencing the direction of these platforms. Like, this is it. Like, I will not buy another laptop. My parents will not buy another desktop. They're like one step behind me. But pretty soon, people are going to be using this. The screen's going to be out. My keyboard. Yeah, I'm going to be walking around with this.
Right.
What was video and mobile going to make a difference of your development?
So, video is really interesting. Do you have video on SharePoint or?
No.
Yeah.
FMYI video.
You can load videos.
You can load videos.
But you can't. It's not a video conferencing.
It's not a stream.
I think the really interesting spot in the space is you have all these people that are building APIs as a service. So you can get geolocation APIs, and now there's a new company that rolled out that has voice over IP APIs and video over IP, or whatever it's called. But you'd be able to plug that in and have video conferencing baked in, and that's sort of what Facebook's just done when they released their video conferencing tool. So I think that'll definitely, like, you look at the guys that are in the consumer space and they're just running, And all that stuff slowly trickles down into business, and it's a matter of it's a fundamental design question. Do you rip off Facebook and kind of not really do a lot of features, which is kind of what Yammer's done? It's like anything Facebook does, we'll try to do it verbatim and do it in a bad way, in my opinion. Or you have
getting your marching band together.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start throwing things. No, but I think in the case of internal collaboration tools, you have to be smarter because the social network for your personal life and the social network for business they have very different needs and it's different use cases.
Yep.
Everybody good with that? Everyone's happy with that? Yep. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up with future predictions. Any questions from the audience before I ask this last one, or anyone from online?
Yeah, we have one more from live stream. Do you have a feel for how your tools influence conflict resolution across teams or organizations? Is conflict an issue considered with collaboration?
So the question from live stream was about conflict resolution, and is that a thought with using these internal collaboration tools? Do any of you have clients that are using it specifically for conflict resolution?
Not to my knowledge.
I have not worked with anyone.
Okay.
We have a platform as a service, so if whoever this is wants to build an app on top of Opal that is about conflict resolution.
So you can use Opal's API and you can build on top of that.
Yes, that is where we're going.
Okay.
Not today, but it's well in the works.
In 2 weeks.
Give or take a day.
Tech time, 2
An
weeks.
hour.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. FMYI, can you tap in? Do you have an open API?
I'm probably not the best person on that.
Okay. And SharePoint? Does SharePoint have the API? Yeah. They live off of the API, right? Everybody plugs into that. Yeah. Okay. I think that answered that question. I think there's a couple questions in the back here.
Yeah, I'd like to hear a little more about culture. Georgia really caught my attention when you spoke about that because that's my interest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if the question you asked Kevin about why they install it and they stop using it. Some of that I can see the community management fits, but there are a lot of tools that businesses spend a lot of money on to improve communication, innovation, and all those kind of things. And many times they run up against the culture that deep down really doesn't want any of that stuff to happen.
Right.
Doesn't know it. Yeah. What do you do to help the culture?
So helping
receptive to your product?
So how do these tools help cultures develop? You're wondering?
Or how do the companies help cultures introduce their tools in a way that will stick?
Okay, so the question was, how can companies introduce the tools in a way that will stick? And kind of off of that, but I'm also interested, is how can these tools actually help culture, and is that even possible? Who wants to tackle this one? Culture.
I guess I'll tackle it. So I think that to answer the first part of it, which is how do you introduce it, you have to have a group of stakeholders within an organization that first of all want to do this, and that's sometimes the hardest part. To do that, we run workshops around culture. We really try to understand an organization before we go and roll out a tool. It makes our sales cycle longer, but we think that it's essential to rolling out successful Opals, and that's really what we are in the business of doing. Now, is it possible to measure it, or is it possible to guide it once you start hitting critical mass? Again, if you instill the behaviors with that core group early, and you bring on people that are positive and that want to be part of something like this, it's a slow growth model within an organization. But you encourage things like being a fast follower, so not letting any conversation just die and hang, just making sure that if someone comes in for the first time and they say, "Hey, I'm here," that you 5 people are jumping on and say, "Hey, welcome." There's just a lot of behaviors that we encourage in the workshops that we do, and so we feel like that helps build that positive rapport within the culture. And what we actually do with all of our data that comes across through the Opals is we are measuring that, and we're and as I was speaking before this, we put it in if you think about the Myers-Briggs profile of an individual person, if you apply that to an organization and you map that all the activities that users can do across it, you can start seeing where a company's strong. Are they super collective and innovative, or are they super collective and stable? And so we've actually filed patents around this, and it's all part of our Opal game layer, and we call it Opal DNA.
So getting companies to make this work, from what I've heard tonight, it's number one, it's a small project to start. 2, it's a small team to start. And then 3, it's like having an actual start and finish line. So it's not tackling, that's how to get it started. Now, what I'm curious is, so like Jennifer, SharePoint, have you seen that change culture, or just you've seen that increase productivity?
Have I seen it change culture?
Or help cultures evolve, or has it just been a productivity tool?
No, I definitely gave the example of it helping with productivity, but I've also seen it help organizations, help groups. For example, you have the group that, especially if you have people who are remote or not in the same location, information not being shared, not sharing documentation, making it easy, as we talked about, just bringing everyone into the fold. Right there, I think that does change the culture of including every group member, having more decisions, more input, and helping also make some decisions faster. So there could be an innovation.
Because of the inclusion, that could inspire innovation alone. Okay, we have to wrap it up with one more question in the back, in the green. Christopher?
I wanted to take off from the online question, which is, instead of conflict resolution, how about consensus building? Do any of your products have specific mechanisms to build consensus around any kind of decision that has to be made? I know that SharePoint doesn't, but Microsoft has an additional product that is a specific consensus building product. But do any of the other...
So the question is consensus building. Do any of these products up here focus around consensus building? So someone puts an idea forward, and you actually have to get a yes or a no, and you have other people involved, and can that actually, do your products focus on building consensus? That's the question.
Yes.
And I think it depends on how you want to build what building consensus looks like, because it could be as easy as, SharePoint workflow, where you have certain people who have to sign off on something. In that sense, are you getting consensus, through them signing off, or are you more just getting people to read, understand, share, collaborate, and the group just kind of saying, okay, we're ready to go with this idea. It's, that the group says yes.
What do you mean by consensus? Do you mean everyone has to sign off, kumbaya style, or?
No, it's just when you're talking about departments within an organization, everybody has competing interests and competing issues.
Budgets.
And whenever budgets or things that will affect their purview. So whenever you try to do any large decision-making process within the company, part of collaboration, I would think it would be very important to effectively, come to consensus on these kinds of decisions.
So rephrasing that for the mics, you have the marketing guy and you have the sustainability guy, and they have different budgets. So have any of you three seen consensus building happening amongst like different departments that have competing interests? Like, I don't really want to spend my budget.
We've got it's like a multitask. We call it a multitask, but somebody could be posing this question and have different options about how you want people to contribute. Maybe it's a yes or no, or maybe you want them to just make sure that they do it and give their feedback. And you can assign it to one group of people. You can assign it to multiple groups of people. But it's all about kind of coming to that one decision. And beyond that, you can continue that conversation lower and refocus it back on coming to that final end result that you're wanting to find.
If I can add to that a little bit, we don't necessarily have that example of budgets being set up in multiple departments, but I think it's an interesting one. Our focus on any kind of decision making right now is kind of radical in the sense that we're trying to democratize organizations. One person, one vote. So we have a challenge engine within Opal that companies can run these big, massive challenges where anybody across the organization can contribute to different entries. And small, we're trying to come around a consensus around one thing and create that challenge 24 hours, and people get rewarded for just participating, not just having the winning answer. So
that's definitely consensus building.
Yeah.
Okay.
Voting.
It's voting?
Well, yeah, it's more voting, right? You're not
it's radical. One person, one vote. Consensus building.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not consensus building.
It's putting in an entry, having people comment on it.
Yeah. Okay.
But
so voting's not consensus building.
No.
So consensus building would be, here's the idea, let's all have a discussion about it, I like it, I don't like it, let me change your mind, that kind of a thing.
And make sure everybody participates.
Yeah, that's different than when you vote somebody into office, well, whoever got the most votes gets in office,
Right.
but the other people didn't get their choice.
That is true, that's not consensus.
Decision making.
It's more like decision making.
Yeah.
So you guys are it's more decision making tools than, I mean, you can do consensus building, of course, but it's definitely more of decision making.
Consensus happens in a meeting, it happens in a conversation. Yeah. So I think that, you can have conversations on FMYI, you can have conversations on SharePoint. It still happens in that realm. It's just that's more of a distilled and synthesized opinion of something that happens that you couldn't put a vote on, I guess.
Okay.
I think you're building you're spreading the word, and so you're building consensus by sharing information.
Yeah. I'm curious if you guys have done anything around like the upsell within an organization. We work with Nike a ton on the agency side of stuff that we do from another life. But it's like they spend so much time and money having competing ideas and trying to get them upstream. I'm just curious if SharePoint does anything like that, or you see like the upcoming stuff, or have you seen that? It's an area that I'm fascinated in because it's an insane spend for them.
I could
where different groups are trying to get their ideas to the top.
Exactly.
Like different groups are trying to push an idea to the top, and can they use their internal collaboration tools to help their campaign?
Yeah.
It'd be more of an ideation type tool set, wouldn't it?
An ideation type tool set?
It's you have the idea, and I think we help with ideas with what we're doing right now, but the idea that you try to get buy-in from key people, because like what happens now is that if I have a really like awesome idea at a place like Nike, I've got to start building a presentation, and then I got to go to this person, this person, this person, this person, and this person, and just keep trying to find that person will open the door. Then you get to the next level, and you do this back and forth thing, and so like a lot of great ideas die that way because it's exhausting, or you're new to the company and you don't have the network.
Right.
So I think it's again like creating one.
There should be like a gallery, right, where they could go.
Well, yeah, like awesome ideas, right? Yeah, exactly. So I think like that's a fascinating thing.
Is that a question of culture, though? So that ideas
It's
don't
absolutely a question of culture.
This is like Kickstarter for the enterprise.
Basically.
Well, this is very interesting. So now we're going to move on to future predictions and wrap it up on time because we're all going next door to the Lotus to have a beer. So here's a sentence I'd like each panelist to say. I think that the global dominator of internal collaboration tools will be, and this is why. So you can name any company you want or any tool set. No, this is not consensus building. This is round robin. Now, you can either say your own company or you can name a different company, but I want to know who you think is going to be the global. Someone's going to win this game. Facebook just won a game out there. Someone's going to win the next game.
It's different with businesses.
Man, my name's Kevin Long. I'm running internal collaboration tool. I'm going to be the global dominator. How hard is that? Absolutely. Because
It's different for businesses.
Okay, so FMYI.
There's always a salesperson at the end of every transaction. With Facebook, it's not that way. And
so no one's going to dominate this space.
Their customers don't suffer from being on their network versus being on my network. You know what I mean? Like until someone cracks that nut.
Yeah.
That's the one that's going to be able to dominate. So it's like if you're not on this platform as a business, you're going to suffer because it's ubiquitous across all businesses. That's why Facebook is Facebook. Because if you're not on Facebook, you're like, oh, half my network's over there, or my entire network.
Well, and it's the difference between a leisure activity and a utility tool.
The difference in leisure activity and utility tool, Facebook versus internal collaboration tool. And switching what?
Switching costs.
Switching costs.
There's a high switching cost, I guess, to Facebook because of the kind of, but not really.
Socially.
Right.
Socially, maybe. If all your friends were on Google Plus, there would
Wow.
be a switching cost.
Oh, poor Google
And
Plus.
how long you've been on a platform.
So you really think that these 15 companies out there who are growing and moving ahead are basically all going to have a pretty spread out equal market share in 5-10 years from now?
Well, I think SharePoint is already the grill in the market.
Yeah, absolutely.
SharePoint does, what, 1.4 billion a year in sales, something like that?
Like I said, I'm not with my
Does it really?
I'm not living stats. No, it's amazing. Yeah.
We just had someone from the audience say SharePoint does 1.4 billion a year.
So I think you have the gorilla in the market and you have the fracture from that point on.
Right.
I would say that there's like a top, like 5 or whatever.
A top 5 that are going to own the space.
But I think the real question is, who's going to manage the transition of social technologies into the enterprise the best? And that's, it's over time. It's who's going to be able to manage those social technologies that bubble up into the enterprise space in a way that makes sense to the businesses.
I mean, so who's going to be the best at onboarding?
No, who's going to be able to manage that transition? So you're going to have this continual bubble from the commercial, consumer, social sector that's non-enterprise. And the question is not who has the best technology, but who can manage that transition. So what each of these folks have done is seen a social technology that they've been able to master and harness and move into an enterprise space.
Robert, come here. I'm serious, come here. Robert's going to finish the first Innovation in Motion panel.
That's how we're going to do this?
Here, have a seat. I want you to look at the camera and say the future of the future of internal collaboration tool dominator will be the person that.
The person of future internal collaboration tools will be the person that manages the flow of consumer technology and social technology into the utility enterprise workspace. It's not going to be the person who comes up with the best product over the duration. It's going to be the person who can understand the movement and harness that movement.
I disagree.
We have a disagreement.
Awesome! I love the disagreement.
And what is it?
I disagree because the enterprise space is different. So it would be the caveat to that is it has to be disruptive enough that the people that are currently seated in power can't roll out the products are too crappy. Right?
Yep.
So Microsoft, did they add some game layer that's really shitty, or they add something it'll be good enough to stay in place? So and they have the sales force, they have all of that in place to kind of keep that all together.
So I totally agree, but it's not the functionality that you manage; it's the flow. It's the do you have the judgment in place in your business process to understand? Everybody at this table, I think, has done a really impressive job of saying these are the things we're seeing bubbling up. These are the things that we think make sense in the enterprise space. And in 5 years, those are not going to be the same thing. You've got George working on gamification. In 5 years, is gamification going to be standard? I don't know. But I guarantee you there's going to be something else entering the social space that the folks at this table are going to have to go, what do we do with that now? And so managing that and ensuring that crappy functionality doesn't enter.
But they won't be winners. The feature set will be winners. The companies won't be winners. They'll get acquired or whatever, and they'll die.
Maybe, and I think I'm not saying that the standard cycle of acquirement in business is going away, but I do think that when you look to somebody who can really own a market, they're facilitating a dynamic exchange rather than focusing on we built the best video app, we built the most high def, sharing software.
All right, we're wrapping it.
Kodak's a great example. Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, I want to just put a special thanks out. One to Laurent, the professional superstar chef who cooked us up some food. To everybody who helped out, we have a little bit of beer and soda left, and we're going to be next door having a drink. Sarah's handing out feedback forms. It would be really great if you can grab a pen and just put down an idea. What topic would you like to cover in 2012? I'm starting to line up the 2012 schedule. And the last note is Innovation in Motion is meeting on the first Thursday of every month moving forward. Next month, we're tackling the zero moment of truth, Google's approach to marketing. And in December, we're going to be tackling the future of mobile. So everyone, and last thanks to our panelists for coming and getting on the spotlight and kicking off Innovation in Motion. Big round of applause. Thanks, everybody.